Hello and welcome to the Motherhood Village podcast. I am on with a very special guest. I have Alex Ayodele, who was born and raised in the vibrant community of Denver, Colorado, where fostering connections and embracing diversity are ingrained values. Alex is a wife, she's a mother of two girls, and works as a health coach, helping people detox their mind, bodies, and lifestyles. She helps clients develop and progress toward personal wellness goals by building awareness of feelings, mindsets, and behaviors, also setting effective and achievable goals and identifying perceived barriers, implementing healthy lifestyle, and keeping clients accountable. I know we were just talking before we got on about me setting some boundaries. So excited to talk with you,
Yes,
Alex. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's really great to
Yes,
connect.
same. I always ask my guests to share a favorite book or one that you would like, or one or two that you would like to recommend.
Yes, that's a really hard question. I love reading all the time, and my favorite book is always whichever one I'm currently reading. So
Oh,
right
I like
now
that answer.
is The Vortex by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And this book has made a huge impact on my life by helping me clearly understand that I have to be a vibrational match for what I'm asking for. So, just for me as a businesswoman, as a mom, as a wife, as a balcony person, someone that wants to contribute to society, I have to be a vibrational match for what I'm asking for in life. And I believe that we create our reality, and whatever I'm putting into the universe is what I will give back. And it's really helped me gain personal freedom from my own thoughts that inhibit me from expanding into this world.
I'm sure that goes hand in hand with the work that you do too, to further like
Absolutely.
really solidify that. I love it. Okay, so let's jump in. And I know these will all be high level questions, but for the sake of the conversation, maybe share your journey and kind of what inspired you to become a health coach, especially focusing on detoxing the mind, body, and the lifestyle, what that means. Because I
Mhm.
think a lot of times when we hear health coach, life coach, well, health coach, not so much, maybe more life coach. But even still, when we hear this coach for someone, there may be some misconception, some like, oh, what is it? So talk to me as high level as you can of what inspired you on this journey and what does it really mean to detoxify our mind, our body, and in essence, our spirit of things.
Mhm. Yes, the timeline goes all the way back to when I was 17 years old. I had my gallbladder removed, and I started building more awareness around how food made me feel. Fast forward through college, I started working in the restaurant industry. I managed social media and marketing for a restaurant group back home in Colorado, and it helped me develop a more meaningful relationship with food. And I learned about sourcing and quality control. And I was eating things that I had never thought about ever in my life. And I was drinking things that I had never knew existed. And I was always on the go. So within that, I became honestly super sick and couldn't digest anything I put in my stomach. So, I started this journey of like, okay, let's figure out what's going on. I was an athlete, I ran track and I danced for 18 years. So I was always really hyper aware of what was going on and could always usually figure things out. But this was something that I could not. And I went to a few doctors to try to get some answers and couldn't get to the root cause of my issue. I was, I think, like 25 or 26 at the time. And I spoke to my aunt, who I'm really close with back home. And she was like, you should try detox your body by following your blood type. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. And so she gave me all the resources to become aware of how that works. And I stopped drinking. And not only was I healed, but my entire lifestyle started to change because I believe that once you clean the inside of your cup, then the outside will also then be clean. So after that, I quit my job in the restaurant industry and went back to school, got my esthetician license, started working for a company called Tata Harper. Tata Harper, she is the pioneer of clean beauty. It's one of the first luxurious non-toxic skincare brands. And she is based out of Vermont and grows, makes, distributes, and all from her farm in Vermont. and they are very about holistic healing with your hands and natural products. And so I worked my up to be one of her national trainers and discovered this whole world of non toxic living because a lot of her loyal customers are cancer survivors or, pregnant women, people that do not cut corners when it comes to quality of their health. So I did that. And then, to be completely transparent, I started having my own conviction working in the beauty industry because I was selling thousands and thousands of dollars worth of skincare products that I knew wasn't going to fix someone's skin when it was more about their gut or they're needing a healthier diet or a more self accepting heart. And COVID happened and I left the beauty industry, became a health coach through Institute of Integrative Nutrition, where I bridge the gap between emotional and nutritional wellness. So now I help people by guiding them in detoxing their bodies, minds, and lifestyles. And what that means is I first teach people how to have a more intentional relationship with food by becoming aware of what they're actually eating. Then we explore how much our emotions and behaviors have great reliance on what we are eating and what we choose to eat. And then we take a look at how our lifestyle supports or does not support our individual health goals. That's why I always say, like, food drives our decisions, and our decisions drive our food choices. So that's the speedy version.
Yes. Of where we ended today.
Yes.
Okay, so much to unpack, but I'll start with, I guess, the easiest question is what is integrative nutrition?
Hmm. Hmm.
Why is it important and why do you feel that everyone I'm imagining that this is something that everyone should know about. I know, we're not being taught these things, right? Of like what's important and what we should be, even though some of us know. And I think with the help of social media, there we get sound bites of things. But I think there's still this misconception of like what all of this means. And it's like functional medicine, like we hear all these terms, but let's simplify it. What is that? What is the definition of integrative medicine or nutrition?
Hmm.
And how is it beneficial for us? And is it something that is more lifestyle? It's not a diet change. Like, talk to me about the
Hmm.
factors that it takes with it.
Yes. So integrative medicine is in alignment with more functional medicine, but integrative medicine really hones in on the root cause of symptoms. And it's not treating the symptom, it's figuring out the root cause of it and making changes that help support longevity. And that's important because we go every single day masking our issues, right? And instead of masking them, let's sit down and figure out what is the root cause of my eczema, my chronic fatigue, my bloat. The list keeps. Integrative nutrition also bridges the gap between emotional and nutritional wellness. Our emotional wellness could be anywhere from anything from the circle of life. The circle of life has 12 pillars. To name the four most important is your spiritual relationship with self, your physical activity, your sleep, your relationships, your close relationships, your work environment. So a lot of those things can be drivers and really the root cause of stress, poor sleep, a bad diet. And so it really just marries the two and helps you figure out what choices do I need to make in order to be an actual healthy person. And that is through integrative nutrition and integrative medicine.
And understand all of that, right? Only because number one, I've talked to other experts on the podcast. And number two, my husband is actually a very big advocate. I mean, from the beginning, we've been or tried to be as non-toxic as possible, of course, with the birth
Mhm.
of our son, with the wool balls and little switches and things that we can do. I also interviewed Dr. Organic Mommy, who's like, I mean, from her clothes to her sheets, like she is
Mhm.
goals with like non-toxic. And I know we can go there. And
Mhm.
there's so many different elements of that, of like having a non-toxic lifestyle. But to your point, it really also just begins from within. Does the integrative nutrition has something to do with the blood type theory? Talk to me about that.
No.
Okay.
Yes. So blood type theory is my own personal practice because
Mm.
it's what I've had the most success in because I don't believe in food plans. One of the biggest misconceptions is that once I start working with someone, they will be put on a food plan. For me, food plans aren't sustainable, and food plans are tied to a goal. And once that goal is hit, then it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
So I use the blood type theory to help people build more awareness around what's good for their body and what's not so good for their body. And so I'll use myself as an example. I'm blood type A. And for every single blood type, because there's four different types, the categories of food are broken up into highly beneficial, neutral, and avoid. And between every blood type, they're all different. So if you have like an A blood type that's trying to do keto, well, A blood types thrive on a more vegetarian plant based diet.
Mhm.
So if you give someone a type A loads of red meat, loads of dairy, they don't actually have the best ability to digest it
It's more harmful.
because
Yeah.
yes. And so I look at every individual like that because there's no one size fits all approach to health, and there's no one size fits all approach to eating. And so I use that in my coaching practice to help people regain control and also become aware of the foods that they're actually eating, the ones that cause the eczema, that cause the bloating, that cause
Mhm.
you to not sleep, all this weight that you can't lose, even though you're trying all these trendy diets.
Sure.
It's because you're eating things that you really shouldn't be eating and it's causing inflammation.
It's basically you're saying our DNA is set up for so many things. So even it would make sense that it's tied to our diet. May I ask, how did you recognize that of the blood type theory?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to just my own personal journey.
Mhm.
Working in the restaurant industry, I was eating red meat and I didn't have a gallbladder. So I was eating red meat, I was eating squid, I was drinking a lot more. I was doing things that, if you look in the book and, through text, that according to my blood type, it is not good for it. And every single one of my clients have had 100% success and losing weight and learning their body and becoming more aware of the messages that their body is saying to them.
I just think of like where we are in society, right? And when we think of health and the way wellness and foods are promoted to us. And yet here's someone like you, South Florida, is like, hey, there's this thing I believe in called blood type theory and I can help you. And you're like, I have a 100% success rate. And
Mhm,
this is what solidifies the work that I do with the podcast because now hopefully someone or the people that listen to this will now then go tell someone who's in need saying, hey, let's dig deeper than this and really say, okay, let's look at our DNA. What's our makeup in essence? And, what is good for our bodies? Because I think that's so true. It's why some people can have certain things and some people can. And it makes so much sense. You can be on these diets and you're like, but it's nothing is working. And I would love to talk so much more about that. But I also want to shift to the mindset because I'm
mhm,
really big on that. But what I found, and I'll be completely transparent on the podcast, is I don't think I've ever struggled with my mental health more. And I've said this most recently to be transparent than when I became an entrepreneur. Not
mhm,
even so much being a mom. I struggled with some things, of course, like just balancing and not even balancing, just trying to have this integration of having a newborn, my relationship work. But over time, you kind of figure it out, right? We have no
mhm,
choice. But being an entrepreneur, I have endured more than I think I ever had with regard to just my mental health and I think lack of my own connection with myself because there's so much to what we do. It is tied to sales to some degree, right? Because we're like, we have to be successful. I left my corporate job to do this. There's like all these
mhm,
things. And then it's social media, like that domino and compounding effect. The reason why I want to talk now about mindset, because I've had to truly, and I speak about this now when people ask me to speak, especially for entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, moms that are getting started, I'm like, let's have real conversations because I know it's so glamorous to be an entrepreneur and start something new, and that's fantastic. But if are not connected to your why or what this is, girl, you're going to get so far gone and lost
mhm,
and be so overwhelmed. And then, of course, if you have kids on top of that, caregiving, all the things. So,
mhm.
my question to you, and of course, like I said, I was being completely transparent because that's just the season that I'm in. And I've learned truly over the past few years, once I realized I wanted to turn the Motherhood Village, quote unquote, into a business of making some
Mhm,
revenue. I've had to truly choose my boundaries, hard boundaries
mhm,
of knowing when to step away and like getting back to a more positive mindset that I realized I have not had. So, talk to
mhm.
me truly about the importance of that. Why is it so important to master our emotions? And why is it critical, other than having the diet, or is it in conjunction with, to having a truly healthy, long living life?
Yes, I love this question. It's important to master our emotions because our emotions create energy, and that energy is positive or negative.
Mm,
And then that positive or negative energy is either exerted or suppressed. So, energy is a real tangible thing. And by mastering your emotions, it helps you dictate what you attract. That's critical to living and leading a healthy lifestyle because if you allow your emotions to drive your decisions around food
sure.
or your job, you probably are not making the most supportive decisions. And a healthy lifestyle establishes, you said it already, healthy boundaries, especially within oneself. We're the hardest ones to put up boundaries against because it's so easy to dismiss whatever we may be feeling at that time. And when you master your emotions, you become aware of your limits and your triggers. And you also get more creative by learning new ways to cope in a healthy way. And when we do that, everybody benefits from it. And as mothers, we are like the silent leaders, right? We lead by example. And if we have a healthy mind, body, soul within ourselves, you can best believe that your kids are going outside and doing the same for others. And that's why I believe it's important to mastering your emotions because if you're not aware of your needs,
Yeah.
if you're not aware of your triggers, if you haven't established healthy boundaries, then everything that you're working so hard for is never going to come to fruition.
What's a method then that you use? Is it as simple as, you hear so many things, meditation, gratitude journal, prayer? And I think the course of my life, prayer has always been something very important to me that I've done. But like I said, I think in the crazy season of building this business and figuring things out, I've almost made excuses to really tap into myself. And again, and having grace
Mhm.
for myself and tapping back into that, like, okay, what is it that I'm missing? Is it more prayer? Do I need to meditate more? Is it more the gratitude? Is it all three? So talk to me. Is that part of the method that you use? Is it a process? Like, how do you, if you could share with a mom listening to this who's like, yeah, I need to tap more into myself, I need to get more connection. What would be some
Yeah.
tips and strategies that you can share with them?
Well, one of them you've already said, like tapping into myself and really listening. Like, okay, I'll use myself as an example this morning. There was so much going on in my house. One of my daughters was getting her hair braided before school. My other one woke up late and she takes her time eating breakfast. And my intention was to go to the gym after drop off, then get back and handle my business and prep for this call. But that didn't happen because I didn't get myself together enough to just go to the gym from drop off. And even though the gym is only like 13 minutes away, I had to account for, let's just say, that 30 extra minutes
Of
that I'm already
course.
behind. So I was like, okay, Alex, what could you do that will still honor your movement time,
Mm,
but also keep you on track with your schedule? So I came back home, I cleaned up the kitchen, I put on my workout clothes, and I did something in my driveway. And it's like those simple things where it's like, okay, I'm already exhausted. It's 8 a.m. and I'm already overwhelmed at the fact that I'm off track from my day. So let me sit here and just honor the fact that it's going to be a little different than I intended it to be. But how can I be more creative and
mm,
execute my wish? And that leads me to an actual practice I use within my clients. So it's called WHOOP. It's a science based strategy that helps people set goals, find wishes, and change habits. It was created by Dr. Gabrielle Odogen. And it's useful to help clients support their health goals by becoming aware and preparing for any obstacles. And so it's wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. And
Mm,
when you look at your day, if you're a mom and you're like, okay, things got out of control. So most of our obstacles revolve around time as a mom,
yes.
right?
Yep.
And so when you realize, like, okay, the obstacle is time, what is my plan? And if you just give yourself 30 seconds to create a new plan, then you can get right back on track. And that's really what helps me. But first and foremost, it's honoring those whispers and those messages that our body's telling us to slow down and establishing those boundaries that we're saying no.
It's interesting because I think had I not been so self-aware as the woman that I am, as a 40-year-old woman, I think I could have felt myself over, especially the past few years, kind of spiraling. But as much as I have quote unquote struggled or maybe been a little stressed, overwhelmed with what I'm building and integration of my son starting kindergarten, Lord, I asked all my friends, I said, why did you not tell me how hard having a school age child would be? But I think had I not had the self awareness, I probably would have spiraled more. But thankfully, I'm able to kind of recognize, pull back. I give myself some days to like feel it in it and then say, okay, I guess similar to the whoop of like, all right, what's the next step there? How do we get out of this? What do I need to do? And I'm very thankful I have that. But I know that's not easy for everyone. It sounds like what I'm hearing more so is truly is it is the practice of slowing down and tuning in
And
as much as we
planning.
can and planning. Yes. Slowing down, planning. But to your point, if something comes and saying the plan isn't working, then how can we pivot? Which goes to the slowing down of saying, okay, let's pause. Obviously, plan A is not going according to plan of this morning. But I think because mothers, in particular, this is a motherhood podcast. So I'm not saying that this is just motherhood related, whoever's listening, because I'm sure fathers can experience this as well. But in the context of us talking about motherhood, I think it's so easy to get lost in the sauce because once that sets up, I mean, I have it in my WhatsApp chat with my mom. So, like, oh, my day has started this. And then it just is a spiral. And I've tried to figure out a way to kind of be like, all right, I get it. And letting them really understand and saying, okay, it might have started this way, but it doesn't have to end that way. And recognizing that just because it started this way, there could be other
Yep.
ways that we could then pivot. What other things do you suggest, especially if, because let's go back to the time with that. A lot of times I also hear moms say, I don't have the time for this. My health and wellness is this. It sounds like you and I are both aligned with making sure people are healthy. My mission is more of the mental health for moms because of a
Mhm.
lot of what I do, the social connections, the workshops I do, the support groups is really making sure there is a space for moms to go. And
Mhm.
then if there is a question or something they have, I can send them to the plethora of resources that I have.
Mhm.
But for a mom who's listening that is like, yeah, Alex, that sounds great, but I really don't have the time. My goals, I did them in January. Now we're in July. I've forgotten about
Mhm.
them because I'm so overwhelmed, along with other barriers. What are some other suggestions that you can make to help a mom who is possibly
Yeah.
in this season overcome them?
One thing I do with clients and in my own personal life is at the beginning of every week, so usually Sunday night, I map out my week and
Mhm.
I write down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And each day I write down the things that I need to get done in order. So it
By
could be,
priority of high
yep,
level?
yep. Or like, so like workout, exercise, social media, lunch, laundry, client call, and so on. Dinner is always on that list for me, cooking a dinner for my family. And I do that for every single day so that my mind already knows what I need to be doing.
Mm.
And then anything on that list that I'm like, I would love to get this done, but I'm not sure how it's going to happen, I circle it in blue and I send a little message out, a spiritual message like, angels, orchestrate this for me. I think like a lot of moms wake up and we're just like, okay, because every day could be different. And as long as you know what you need to get done, it'll just make your brain prepared. The preparation will just help you execute much better. And by doing that each and every single week, you'll realize how much more time you actually have because you already know what needed to get done and you got it done. The other exercise that I do is at the last day of every month, I have a calendar, a chalkboard calendar, and I write in our family obligations, business obligations, and if my husband's going out of town, if I don't have child support on a certain day, so that I know what this month looks like. And then I give myself a percentage of personal time that fills my wellness cup. For me personally, that usually revolves around like having some girl time, going out to dinner, but I limit myself. I'm disciplined. I limit myself to, let's just say, like, it's 2 nights a month.
Mhm.
And some people will be like, "That's not enough." But for me, I'm like, "That's all I got."
Yeah.
And if I try to squeeze in a little bit more than I know that I can actually give, it starts taking away from everything else that's a priority. That's how I help people become aware of what's important, of what needs to get done, and how to make it easier for your brain to execute. So it's not just always guessing and
No,
you're
I
not
I
always in this like creative space because that's what creates burnout, right? Is when we're
yes.
constantly creating without a plan. And we make whatever is hard harder without a plan. And you can't do that. You just have to let hard be hard. Don't make it
Yeah.
harder for yourself. I think it's really valuable. And I think what sets me apart from most is I do have the advantage of being an athlete. I know being super disciplined
Mm.
is a trait that you must learn. And I think every mom really knows what discipline is when you have children
Yeah.
because the structure and the foundation of what goes on in that household is really like sets your child up for success. And so you always have to come back to being disciplined and, being okay with missing out on a few things
Yes.
and being okay with having FOMO, being okay with honoring yourself without giving an explanation because at the end of the day, most people will forget anyways. So I hope that answered your question. I kind of went
Oh
in
my
a
God.
different
Yes.
direction.
No, for sure. I mean, I think self-discipline is key. And I think for new moms and having the hindsight of going back to me in the first early stages of motherhood, I remember how overwhelming it was because you're like, how am I ever going to overcome this? And you realize very quickly it is like that mastering that CEO lifestyle of saying, okay, this is my team, this is my family. What are the role players? My husband and I are a team. What are we going to do? A lot of times moms want to take it all on and we just get in. It's so isolating that I feel like we just kind of get in a shell. And again, if you don't know, it's easy to just stay in that shell. Again, I see it because I have so many new moms in the WhatsApp chat, like, well, this, that. But one of the moms, she has a new business. And one of the things she said, she has her boys for summer. She's like, this is so hard. I'm trying to grow my business and the boys, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, what time did you go to bed last night and what time did you wake up? And she's like, she sent me like the WhatsApp emoji thing that was like, went to bed really, really late and woke up late. I'm like, okay, well, I said, I love you, but I'm going to give you the tough love. I said, because I've been there. When I know that I'm there and I'm like, oh, but I stayed up late. I didn't get up early. I didn't do what I'm supposed to do, but I do have that self awareness again. So I know I can kind of whip my butt back into shape to say, all right, you can't have the excuse because you stayed up late, you slept in. Like,
Absolutely.
there's a schedule. And when I do falter and say, you know what, I needed it and move on and correct it. I said, but if this is what you're going to do all summer and you really want to focus on your business, then like anything else, you have to have a schedule and it to your, like you just said, a plan. And know that
Hmm.
some days you may have to go to bed early to wake up early. Maybe that's before the boys, from 9 to 10, whatever it is, they have breakfast. So maybe you're up at 8 so that, from 8 to 10, you're work, like there's things. And she's like, oh, I know. I said, but I think there's this thing that moms either want to take it all on and then it's not until someone says something and then we snap out of it like, oh yeah, you know, I didn't
Hmm.
think about that or that kind of like that
Hmm.
true of like looking in the mirror, like, but we have the responsibility, right? Because yeah, you can have the kids run amok and have this woe is me, but at some point you got to look in the mirror and say, okay, what am I doing or not doing that's turning into or not turning into, right? If you're not being as productive as you want to be, it's just hard and I get it, but I think that's what these conversations are for, obviously, the work that you do, which my next question is going to be who is an ideal client for you? Like, who is someone that you love to work with? Is it the moms? Is it also dads? Love my dads. I'm a boy mom. So, even, love the males. But yeah, like, who's your ideal client?
Yeah, my ideal client is really anyone that's trying to sort through the weeds of this health industry
Mm,
and now really gain more clarity on the healthy health industry.
yeah.
And so I would say I have a passion for working with women because we are creators, physical creators at that. And so creating a healthy mind and a healthy body is so important to me because it contributes to how strong that little human is when they're growing inside of you and their epigenetic behaviors too. So I work with anyone. I feel like most people that come my way are the CEO executives that really have a hard lifestyle, always on the go, and don't know how, like, have lost a little bit of touch of, what health means to them and are so focused on being like work, 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 and have
Hmm.
completely abandoned their health and lifestyle. The other client that comes to me is Black and Brown women, particularly, really trying to gain confidence in the health industry and learning how to become advocates and using their voice to get the proper treatment that they're needing and proper clarity that they're needing. I also have people that come to me with all sorts of issues that they want to address that they haven't been able to figure out, such as weight loss, hypertension, diabetes. Honestly, I work with anyone and everyone that's willing to do the work and that really want to change their lives for the better and are looking for sustainable ways to maintain that lifestyle.
Love it. Can you share, Alex, how people can connect with you if they do want to work with you, social media, all the things?
Yes. First and foremost, I always educate people through my social media. I use Instagram mostly. You can find me at Alex Ayodele underscore. That's ALEXAYODELE underscore. And then if you want to connect with me personally, you can hit up my website, www.alexadele.com, and submit an inquiry or learn more about what I do and reach out to me personally.
Love it. Do you do any workshops or anything like that?
Right now that my 2 kids are in school and the first time in 4 years, I have that 9 to 2 p.m. window
Yeah.
open. That is coming, workshops are coming, group coaching is coming. Right now, I do one-on-one and, working to figure out a way to help and heal bigger groups of people.
Yeah, well, when you're ready for that, let me know. Love
I
to
will
get you
for
in front of
sure.
my mamas. Thank you so much, Alex. Oh, what are your final thoughts? So I always like my guests to share any final thoughts with my listeners.
Yeah. I think one that has really changed my life so far in 2024 is understanding the power of our self narrative
Mm,
and learning how to reframe that. And if we're so focused on the things that we don't want, we'll miss out on the opportunities of having what we do want. And we can eat all the kale in the world and still be
yes.
unhealthy if we have unhealthy thoughts. And being more mindful of what we're choosing to believe is huge, and you can get so much more done. You can have such a better outlook on life and feel better about yourself if you are pouring positive thoughts into yourself and into your children and focus on what you want.
Oh,
That's
beautiful parting words.
it.
Thank you so much, Alex, for coming on, for
Yeah.
sharing amazing tips for the work that you do, and continued blessings to you for love and light.